an elder statesman. He joins us from his Abuja residence. Thanks for being with us tonight. Let me also welcome to this program Ambassador Yahaya Kwande. He also joins us from Jos. We have with us here in the studio in Abuja Senator Itai Nang, a former advisor to the president on Niger Delta affairs, yes, senior special assistant on Niger Delta affairs, and also on National Assembly, the Senate. Thanks for being with us here tonight. We're also joined by one who has spent a considerable period of time in politics from the 70s, if I'm correct. It's right, currently the Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, Mr. Osita Okechukwu. Thanks for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. And also tonight we're joined by Dr. Samuel Oluyemi Falai, CFR, the Oluabu of Iluabu. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. And okay, right. And so at some point in time, this program will be interactive, as you already know, and at that time, we'll remind you of the procedure and the process. But for now, let's go on to the main issues of the day. And let's start with Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, who will ask to give us the benefit of his knowledge of how politics was then and now.
How politics was then and now.
Well, are you ready for me? Okay. When you're
They will communicate you through the TV.
All right, we'll return to Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, and when we're able to work on his sound, it will seem that sound is not quite clear. But let's come to the studio here in Abuja while we fix all the glitches. And easily the same question we'll put to our guests who are with us in the studio here. Let's look at how it was in the past, and we've come a long way in what it is, what politics portends in current Nigeria. Senator Idang.
Yeah. I think in the past you'll have a situation where you will immediately after elections, people keep bickering with themselves. They hold enmity with against each other. There are tribes rising against tribes, and you have communities confronting communities. You'll have actions in court and so on. I think that was the level of bitterness that made it necessary that one of our ancients invented what they call politics without bitterness, which is what we now are discussing. And you could have that bitterness when you are confronted with a sense of defeat, that you are not going to have a benefit. But now, where we are now, you cannot afford to have bitterness, because what the country is facing, what is facing the incoming government, is such that you can't afford to be bitter against your brother or another ethnic group. Because what is the challenge that is awaiting you as a government incoming is such that you have to put aside all bitterness. In fact, if you have bitterness, you have to be bitter with how to face the economy, the security situation, the expectations of the people about employment and unemployment. How do we refine our petroleum products? How do we revamp our economy? How do we walk up again the exchange rate? How do we produce what we eat more? How do we sustain and improve upon what the present government is doing? How do we meet the expectations of Nigerians who are no more interested in who is the president or who is winning this election, but who will solve our problem? So what we now have to do as a country, as a people, as a political class, is to put away bitterness against individuals, to face to confront our confrontations. The confrontations are now no more the individuals. What the incoming government has to do is to gather energy, input, resources, human and material, even if it is from those that people may consider your adversaries. But if it has what it will help you to work up the economy, to create employment, to make food available, to create things that will work up the economy, that is what Nigerians are interested in. So what it will be is put away and off all the bitterness against against the other political party. Let Nigeria become your political party. Let Nigerians, all of them, become the persons whom you are to work over and, work with and work for, not those who either won you or defeated you. Thank God there is a platform, that the platform is the election petition tribunals. And we normally say, if you are in the court, leave the street. If you are in the street, leave the court. So this is the kind of politics without bitterness that we think should rule what we're doing now.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go to Mr. Osita Okechukwu, and you might give us the benefit of having been a key player in the political landscape for quite some time. As far back as the
Not quite a key player, but a member.
Okay.
We started as youths. I was a young teacher then, in the late 78. And then the Constituent Assembly was just finishing. Luckily for us, I was teaching somewhere in Nsukka, and there was a Chinua Achebe, he was a lecturer, so he called us a meeting and said the man is visiting from Kano, and that was Aminu Kano. And then he told with him was late Uche Chukwumerije, Ato Wankwo, and the others, of blessed memory now. So we assembled as young teachers, and Aminu Kano came to Nsukka, was telling us that the military is about leaving the arena of governance, that the civilians are coming, that they just finished the Constituent Assembly, and from all indication, we're going to civil rule. So it was jubilation everywhere. So we joined the PRP. Along the line came another group, this time in Enugu, late Waziri Ibrahim. I should say that he's the author of Politics Without Bitterness. Very vibrant young person then, rich without the wherewithal. So he was the one that founded the Nigerian People's Party. And later Nadia Zikiwe and others joined him. But before then, we were in touch with Aminu Kano's own agenda about the masses. In fact, one of the greatest sayings of the Aminu Kano is that if you join them, you'll be an oppressor. So you must be with us. We're a majority. If all votes, will win. I relied on that until at a certain point when we joined the university, and the PRP was no more strong in the eastern region. So we joined the NPP. So it was late Waziri Ibrahim. In fact, when the NPP split, everybody felt he will quit the politics. So he won't quit. He formed the Great Nigerian People's Party,
GNPP,
and had his own origin, his own base in what is then called Gongola, and the Northeast today. So it's a very flamboyant politician. In the GNPP, nobody's paying a fee. He took charge of everything. But in Aminu Kano's zone, no matter how small you are, you have something to contribute. So Aminu Kano has his own flair up to tomorrow. I believe sincerely that was our friendship with late Barabe Musa, who is one of the scions of the Aminu Kano Talakawa politics. So then it was ideologically based. And as Distinguished said, you have something you are working for. Not basically that I do not want to get to office, but there's a small commitment to a philosophy or ideology. And that it was based on argument. Unluckily, when the election came, it started gravitating to the fault lines. But at any rate, by 83, the opposition, headed by Chief Obama Awolowo and later Azikiwe, they all formed what we call it the PPA. And they were heading to the 1983 election with the PPA, very strong formation that threatened the ruling party then, the NPN. In fact, that was part of what made the NPN to go berserk. Berserk in the sense, I remember Okadi was giving a lecture at the University of Nigeria, and he said, for us, Washop Shagari will win, but there are those who want to capture some regions that do not have supporters. I think that was what happened. Yeah. So there were introduction or deviation from politics without bitterness to politics with bitterness as we entered the election, because NPN was panicking. And that panic had cost Nigeria a lot at several instances. We will later come to our little attempts between 88 and 1993.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that background. But let's now return to Alhaji Tanko Yaka. So hopefully we'll be able to get him his sound clear at this time. And thanks for being with us tonight. And it's all about politics without bitterness. And we thought you would be in a good stead to give us the background to how we got where we are today and how it used to be. And when they talk about politics without bitterness, how this has impacted over the years. And when they talk about...
Well, thank you very much. We'll all remember that the slogan of politics without bitterness started in the Second Republic with late Wazir Ibrahim of the GNPP. But what created the bitterness? It was the politics of the First Republic, where the differences developed into a fight, virtually, life and death matter. In the North in particular, the major political party was, party in power was the MPC. Other parties, the UMBC, the NEPU, the Borno Youth Movement, Ilorin Talaka Parapo, and the rest of them were fighting MPC. MPC was using the advantage of native authority and the native authority police to fight the other political parties that were fighting them. That fight generated a lot of bitterness and hatred, and I think it was part of the crisis that led to the Western Nigeria crisis, because the action group broke into two. Part of it allied with the MPC of the North, and part of it remained committed to the Western region. Then the fight, the quarrel between the two factions of the action group developed into a national issue. So the gang up of the different political groupings gave rise to two political groups. The two political groups, one against the other, was Abuja and NTA. Abuja means United Grand Alliance, United Nigeria Grand Alliance. and NNA, Nigerian National Alliance. The fight was very bitter. The result was that I think sometime the military saw an opportunity that the politicians were not united and they were fighting one another, and therefore decided to take over the power. That was the beginning. After they ruled the country for about 9 years, they realized that the world was not really in their support, and therefore decided to introduce a program for the return of the country back into democracy. Then they organized election for 1979. The election was contested, parties won and some lost, and we resumed the journey again. That was when we had the federal government established under the leadership of at that time Sir Abuja was assassinated, but this time the alliance between different parties gave rise to two political groupings. The two political groupings really developed politics of program, but unfortunately, gradually, they too went back to the old quarrel, and they begin to fight one another. That took us to a lot of journey, and also a fight between this and that, and which resulted in the attempt to the military to come back to the politics again. So this issue of politics without bitterness is the main problem in Nigerian politics. Unfortunately, it will go away, but soon it will come back. So unless everybody in Nigeria will now commit himself to fighting one another without bitterness, will not go anywhere. But I'm glad that at the moment, the trend is that we are developing better understanding, and we are likely to have politics on program rather than politics on personality clashes, which gave rise to politics with bitterness. I think if we will be able to develop this trend to the level that the whole country will work on it, I'm sure we'll have politics without bitterness ruling the political train in the country.
Sure. And let's go over to Jos now and hopefully speak with Ambassador Yahaya Kwande, who joins us from Jos. And we're looking at how it used to be and how we got ourselves to the present day Nigerian. Why politics without bitterness is imperative if the country has to move forward. Why politics without bitterness is imperative if the country has to move forward.
Politics without bitterness if the country will move forward.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I know we started very well after independence. The whole thing started with friendship, understanding, and trusts. Because I remember before the First Republic, I remember when we were all coming together after the ban on politics was raised. All of us in Nigeria, Southerners, in particular Westerners, Easterners, and Northerners, We were all going around trying to find out what will hold Nigeria together. And when we were going around, I remember Chief Awolowo came to Kaduna, and some of us, the North, haven't lost our leadership, our leaders. Sadona was gone. Then we met him in a hotel, and we told him, come and join our own group, Northern, it was then a National Movement of Nigeria, when we were all going around. And we went before him and asked him, come and lead us as a father, but you have to join our party. Then he wasn't very happy. He said, could you go before Sadona and ask him to come and join a political party? Why can't you just ask me, come and lead us and be the candidate for the presidency? That was the beginning that we were not very happy. But despite that, we went around on the platform of a movement, National Movement of Nigeria. When we eventually agreed, we went to the east, we went to the west, and in the north, leaders were very friendly. Everybody saw the other people from other part of Nigeria as brothers and sisters. The reason why I said I started with this is because we eventually wanted to set up a political party. And you may not agree, but the Southerners were the people who started the peace, because they came to us in the north and said, we have to have one political party after the military. Then the name was changed from National Movement of Nigeria, because I remember I was sitting next to Aminu Kano when he said, National Movement of Nigeria, if you want to abbreviate it, NMN. He said it would be difficult for the ordinary Nigerian to pronounce. We changed it to NPN. He said MMN is too much for the tongue, so therefore that's when we had it. But the reason why I'm bringing this story is because they said, look, this party we are now going to establish for Nigeria, for the unity of Nigeria, we are conceding the presidency to you. It wasn't the Northerners that were asking. It was the Southerners, Akinloe and others. We concede the presidency to you. You go and bring 3 people from the north. We will accept, and then at the convention we will take 1. Because if you bring only 1, that person will be Northern Nigerian president. And we went back. Then the Southerners, the Westerners, the Yoruba group, were then to give us the chairman. We also allowed them to bring 3 people so that we, at the convention, can select 1 of them. Eventually, Akinloe had it. It was there that, in the agreement, that they said whoever that wins from the north should select the vice president from the Igbo nation, so that the president was coming from the north, the chairman of our party was coming from the west, and the vice president was coming from the east. We were very friendly, if not because of the military. Believe me sincerely, people did not think Ikweme was a different person. He would have been president and finished with. Anyway, we are talking about the early stage of political development in Nigeria. Then we move to the actual contest. And when we came also to the north to give them the 3 nominees, I think northern Nigeria had 11 states then. Then we had to bring in 5 people from each of the 11 states in Kaduna to select. We eventually couldn't select 3. We went with 6 because something happened. We didn't want to break. J.S. Tucker had a wonderful idea, but it wasn't to us accorded rules that we were to follow. So it asked us. We then had to go with 6 of them to Lagos, and Shagari was selected. Now, don't think about only the politicians. Even our civil servant then took over from the British that handed over, and they were behaving like them. Everything must be honest. Everything must go right. Even a minister would have to follow rules to be able to draw his own allowance. The civil servants were guiding the politicians in the way the British handed over for us. It was during this period that we then moved to have different, it was then that this gentleman from Bonu, when they were also establishing their own political party, GNPP, they divided themselves. They had problem. This question of politics without bitterness. People thought that things would go bad. But he took it easy, and everybody took it easy, allowed him to move on his own. It was also there that somebody offended Aminu Kano at the meeting that we were sharing the position that Atiku Aminu Kano left us, went to the airport straight and went to Kano and started the PRP. But despite all these divisions that we had, there was no question of bitterness among people. Very serious and important members or politicians in the north then, J.S. Tucker and Ibrahim Imam and the rest, with Sedona of Sokoto, when they met together, you wouldn't think that they belonged to different political parties. People were friendly. The most important thing was to promote the Nigerian or the northern citizen, Nigeria in particular. And that's why we had peace. I don't actually know when we went wrong. To me, I will blame the military, because it was then that this question of federation was in practice. It was like a unitary government, because you have the head of state sitting down there alone and dictating. And that's why even now, and then our orientation, people then started stealing. Very greedy politicians started. Everybody was helping himself. And that's why we now have problem. I'm very sorry. This is what I know.
Giving us the background, how all this came to be. But let's see if we can link up with Samuel Falaye, the Oluwabu of Iluabu, and also find out how we got to the stage where the politics now is so bitter that even friends, former friends and brothers have now literally taken up arms against each other, and the politics is now a do-or-die affair. Taking up arms against each other, and
Well, thank you very much, Cyril. I must have listened very carefully to the former speakers, especially my good friend, Ambassador Yaya Kwande. When I went into politics and tried to get the nomination of my party for the presidency, Ambassador Yaya Kwande was supporting General Yaradua, who was my opponent. And we were very, very friendly. Whenever I went to Kaduna, I went to see General Yaradua in his home. In Lagos, he visited me regularly. So there was no bitterness between us. You see, bitterness is not a new phenomenon in our politics. Even in the First Republic, I know in the Western region, there was a lot of bitterness, even at the local level. If you were action group and the other guy was NCNC, you were like enemies, because the competition was very keen, and whoever got into power started to victimize the other side. That is the point. That's the origin of bitterness. People were using power to victimize the opposition, not just in the north, as someone said earlier, also in the west and other parts of Nigeria. I remember that in Akure, where I was at the time, a very prominent NCNC leader was arrested by the police on the allegation that he stole a goat because somebody took a goat and tied it behind his house in the night. So the following morning was picked up by the police and was sent to prison. Those were the kinds of things that generated bitterness. Bitterness does not just happen. It happens because of negative action to which people are reacting. Now, I think what is important is, having identified the causes of bitterness, how do we exercise it from our politics? It's not sufficient to preach sermons and homilies. We have to get rid of bitterness through practical demonstration. For example, if you are a governor of a state, there's nothing wrong if you have a friendly relationship or a non-combatant, non-hostile relationship with other parties in your state. That's the kind of thing that will foster friendship and the brotherhood in the country. But here, because the mentality is winner take all, and you think the treasury belongs to you because you won the election, you keep everybody else away and you become hostile to other people. So I think if we focus on the welfare of our people and we have politics that's based on programs, policies, and ideology, then there will be very little room for victimization, vindictiveness, and antagonizing other people who do not belong to our political parties. In more recent times, when the FCC was established, it was clear that it was being used to victimize people in the other parties. Whoever was in power used it to victimize the other. That's the kind of thing that's causing bitterness. So let's address it. Let's stop victimizing people of other parties. They are Nigerians, they're entitled to belong to parties of their choices. And therefore, there's no room to victimize them. You cannot be victimizing me and I'll be friendly with you. So that's the point. In today's Nigeria, let us all agree that this country, one, belongs to all of us. Two, that in an election, someone will win, someone will lose. Whatever happens, the wealth of the nation is our commonwealth. Nobody should appropriate it exclusively for himself and use government power to oppress other political groups in Nigeria. That is where the bitterness came from in the past. That is where it came from in more recent times. So I think we should put our finger on the source and causes of bitterness and how to get rid of it. Because as long as bitterness, the nation cannot make much progress. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much. We'll return to you. But we also have some reports, and let's get to see this first one from Lagos. All right, we'll get to those reports as we go on, and well, back here in the studio. Well, you heard the contributions from the elder statesmen, and particularly what Oba Falai just said, that at some point in time it degenerated into the use of state apparatus against opponents, and that's where the bitterness stemmed from. So how can we go beyond that and put a stop to it? Because you still find, even today, allegations of institutions of state being used to hound political opponents. And I'm saying this not peculiar to the federal level, but also at state levels.
To be honest with you, we must have learned from the elder statesmen and where they're coming from. And as I said, there's no doubt that there was some element of bitterness in the canvas for who gets what, when and how. But the truth of the matter is that in the past 20-something years, Nigerian democracy had advanced to a level where today, no matter the bickerings, immediately President Muhammadu Buhari signed the 2022 Electoral Act. We celebrated it because he had covered some grounds that is going to, in the fullness of time, water down bitterness in politics. No matter some of the flaws witnessed in the election, the fact that today we've gone technological, whereby we graduated from smart card reader to BVAS. You have reduced, you have made whoever wants to win an election in Nigeria to walk out of his domain and corner his enemy and solicit for votes from his weak areas. Because today, we have deviated from the past whereby those who are stronger in certain stronghold, after elections, will use the totality of a voters register, assuming in a precinct or in a polling unit, 500 persons registered, and 230 appeared for the election. They will wait, they won't bother. Whether they are defeated or not, they will bring the other 200 and something to add to theirs. We have come to a stop. That today, the yardstick is the number of the accredited voters. After the presidential election, the gubernatorial elections, and the parliamentary elections, those who won on the strength of the Electoral Act and BVAS. Those who lost, who are going to tribunal, the same BVAS is their handgun on both sides. So it's now coming to a reality that if you abandon any part of your constituency, if you are running for president, for instance, you must look more broadly to get minimum of 4 geopolitical zones to coast to victory. You are running for governorship, you also aim at the same, because you are now limited. No matter how populous your constituency is or your stronghold is, you are no more counting on that alone, because the totality of those accredited is what some people are saying is low turnout. It's not low turnout. It is a differential between when 230 persons voted or accredited. You lost an election because you have the almighty state of federal might or local government might. You can now add 100 and something that did not vote at all to your own. We've come to. And when you add the issue of the IRF, I do not think that my thinking is that instead of getting back, as we move on, we're going to correct those lapses. And immediately you are aware, you have been made a governor of Jigawa State today, or a governor of Enugu State, or a governor of Akwa Ibom, or a governor of Oyo, or a governor of Adamawa. From your swearing in on 29th, you are now crystal aware that your governance will be more broad-minded, more public-spirited, and are more representative than before. So yes, there's bitterness. There's no climb where there's no element of bitterness in politics, because what we're looking for is a resource. No matter how rich you are, the fact that you are in charge of state power, you add the territory of the state, you add the humanity of the state, and you add the resource. You are in charge of about 3 items that makes governance very attractive to humanity. So, but the issue of watering it down is what we shall be talking about.
Well, let's go back to Alhaji Tanko Yaka Sayed. Yes, the Electoral Act took care of a number of things, but there's a feeling that even with the Electoral Act, some aspects of the contest have become so bitter, and it's not based on any ideological leanings, but mainly on ethnic and religious biases. And these are sentiments that run deep even after elections, and a lot of people are still feeling hurt about what happened. Now, how can we take the experience, especially of the very recent past, to move forward as a nation and put a stop? And this is not a question of just the law being in place. After all, even if the law is in place, it takes an enforcement. And Nigerians are saying they haven't seen that much of enforcement when the provisions of the law are breached.
Well, thank you very much. I think what we are trying to do is to look at the past and see what are the nagging problems that prevented us to get it right. I believe that what made it difficult for politics to be played in Nigeria in a manner that will promote national unity and progress is the personalization of politics. If you look at the present situation in Nigeria, you will see that there is a political party which has the support from all parts of the country, maybe more in one area than in the other areas. But if you look at the others, unfortunately, you find them that most of their support are based in their ethnic area. People voting for a candidate because of his ethnicity, not because of his program. And the result is that such political parties are not national. They are not accepted by the people of the country from different parts of the country. You can easily see it if you go through the pattern of voting, where the party is getting 90% or 95% in the area of the ethnic group of the candidate, but getting 5 or 10% in other areas, except probably few areas where people from that candidate area migrated to them. So all these things, if we are really going to have a good politics for Nigeria, and it is only a good politics that will do away with bitterness in politics, we should go back to politics of program. What are the political parties and the candidates going to do for Nigeria and for the people of Nigeria? What program do they have to change the situation for the better? What are the problems in Nigeria that are bedeviling the country, the poverty, unemployment, and the rest of them? How can the political parties evolve policies and programs that will address these problems and solve them so that the country can move forward? This, I think, is what we need. And unfortunately, there's clear indication that if care is not taken, we are going to go back to a politics of ethnicity, which will not be in the interest of the country, which will not do away with the bitterness in politics that we are trying to do away with.
Should we say that the political class have learned little or nothing? That's speaking along the lines you have just enunciated now. Should we say the politicians have not learned anything, and that is just the desperation for power that has driven them to such positions? And so how, in moving forward, how do we begin to de-emphasize personal interests in seeking elective office, which seems to be the whole thing, because everyone wants to grab the power and be, as they say, the monarch of all the survey?
Well, is he? No, he didn't. He's still talking. Well, I don't know. The politicians that are now in the practice are not the same as the political or the politicians of the past. This is a new brand of political class. What you probably are saying is that they maintain the same mantra, the same thinking. But why? It is because the personalization of politics. Politics for self-service rather than politics for national interest. Unless we go back to politics of national interest, what is the problem in the country? What do we have as politicians to present to the people of the country on how to solve their problems, how to create jobs for unemployed, how to improve the lot of the people, the economic poverty that is bedeviling the country, how to do away with it. When we do that, then everybody will turn his attention to the parties and now examine the program the various political parties are presenting and choose the better ones. And that will make us to vote for the better programs, for the better parties, and do away with problem of bitterness and pettiness in politics. I think we have to emphasize that we go back to the politics of program, politics of addressing the issues that are bedeviling the nation, poverty, unemployment, and also how do we develop our country? How do we make better roads? How do we create enough water for people to drink? How do we employ people, give them better employment and so on? These are things that will make us to go back to do politics for the interest of the country, not for the interest of the individual. This I suggest we should emphasize, and all the moderator and the organization also should help in emphasizing these ideas so that we will go back to politics of doing politics like they do elsewhere for the progress of the country and for the betterment of the people in the country. And this will help to do away with politics of bitterness, because what brought about bitterness is personal quarrel between one politician and the other. If politics is based on program, on ideas and so on, all this will not happen, and we will get away with that. And I think until we do that, we will continue to have a problem of bitterness and so on, and division in the society. Thank you very much.
Let's quickly go to Jos and speak again with Ambassador Yahya Kwande. And this time around, we're bringing it down to the political party level. It would seem that the troubles all begin at party level, where it's been said there's little or no democratization, where parties impose candidates, and sometimes long after elections, contests are still going on, legal contests are still going on about who was qualified to run for office in the first place and who wasn't. You can tell that easily from the numerous cases that are in the courts today. People are still fighting over who was qualified to contest, who wasn't qualified, who was imposed, and who was not imposed. So it begins from there. How can the parties now begin to ensure that the democracy they so talk about is practiced right within internal democracy in the parties themselves? Democracy in the parties themselves.
I believe that our system needs to be examined, and the individual politicians should also examine themselves. The reason why we are in this confusion, first of all, I'm repeating myself, the greediness of the individual politician. Politics has now become commerce. That Nigerians have left their trades, left what they were doing to earn living. everybody seemed to be a politician. You can imagine, even the system of selecting candidates is so bad. You need to have honest primary election to select those that will represent a political party. This question of allowing only governors to be appointing people they love is too bad, and that's why we are so confused, and even the candidate, we don't even know who and who will be there tomorrow. Because of that, I am suggesting very strongly, number one, the primary that will select candidate will need to be examined, and we go back. Direct election is the issue. You do it, and you don't know what is happening, the result is collated, and a winner would have known that he has been selected. There are people who are not politicians, but they have relations with those in power that can install them. No election whatsoever. They install them into position. If they don't like you, they throw you away. So the examination of electoral law, I was looking at it, I was seriously listening to what was happening when they did not allow an individual, an independent candidate, and would not allow the direct election. I knew we were still there, backwards. So therefore, if you see what is happening now in this country, we are totally out. We don't know what we are doing. We are depending on the judiciary. We might as well, people might as well stop us suffering and going to cast our vote so that they can appoint members of the judiciary to select those that they wanted to be leaders in this country. I had mentioned earlier also that the judiciary, members of assembly, you should, my principle made it clear that you should make the seat of presidency to be unattractive. You don't make it, everybody, if you are sitting in your village and you are president tomorrow, then you are a multi-billionaire. And all your relatives are billionaires. This is what is bringing problem into Nigeria. And then even if you see bad people are being rewarded. Somebody caused a lot of trouble, and somebody that is clearly known to be corrupt, you reward them by coming around and singing their praises. If we are to go on like this, I don't think we'll ever correct the system that we have. Let me tell you what is now happening. The field of politics has become so attractive. Farmers have left their business. Even clerics are now players in politics. You have to go and prostrate in front of them for them to give you a seat. We are not doing any democracy anymore in Nigeria. It's not democracy. And we know among us those who are bad. Somebody that you saw yesterday, poor, but managed, look at the way they are fighting to get the position of Senate President or Speaker. Why should you fight for it? If you are the correct one and a qualified person, allow people to go and elect you and select you to be their leader. You will have respect and they will respect you. But look at what is happening. We are all listening to them. The ordinary man now has no say. And that's why I think we need to re-examine our laws and rules. People are so arrogant. If you are now a member of the member of an assembly, then you are a king. It shouldn't be so. We are supposed to be servants. Another thing again that I would like to mention is that when you have a president or you have a governor, then the appointment of commissioners or ministers are absolutely the prerogative of that president or governor. So they become his servants. In our days, a commissioner or a minister, then even a regional minister, when you have a budget and you say Minister of Education should have 10 million, that 10 million should be used and spent by the minister with his staff. At the moment, even if you are buying a packet of tea, you have to hold the file to go and see your governor whether he will approve it. We are on it's no more a democracy at all. It's autocracy. Because you have governors living like kings. And that's why everybody is fighting to be there.
Again, we will engage Oba Falai. And it's been said, just like Ambassador Hayakwande suggested, make political office unattractive in so many respects, and therefore the cutthroat competition to get in there would cease. Again, put in some other measures where only the best of the best can get in there, and we might see an improvement in the contest, which would lead to the kind of acrimony and bitterness that we see all the time. Would you subscribe to that?
Yes.
Where only the best can get in there.
Yes. Well, thank you, Siri.
Might see an improvement in the contest, which would lead to the kind of acrimony and bitterness that we see all the time. Would you subscribe to that?
Absolutely, Siri. You know, I want to endorse what Ambassador Yayakwanda just said, that it is because government no longer have programs for the masses of the people. That is why we are where we are. Now, one solution to the present crisis is what I call demonetization of politics. Our politics has been monetized completely. When I ran for president in 1999, I raised and spent about 800 million in a public dinner held in Lagos. 95% of the money was subscribed by members of the public to my campaign. Now, 800 million today is not sufficient to run for House of Reps. So, when people spend billions to become senators, they then try to steal trillions when they're senators. So the two are connected. The monetization of politics is what has landed us where we are. Now, I can recall that one of the earliest drafts of the Constitution, which was considered when I was in government, had a provision that membership of the legislature will be part-time, so that members would draw sitting allowance if and when they attended meetings of the House. But some people went and lobbied the government, and they changed it to what it is today. I'm sure if tomorrow we restore that provision, that from tomorrow, membership of all legislators will be part-time, so that only people who are ready to draw only allowances will be members. 90% of the traders who have now taken over the legislatures will leave the House. I have no doubt at all about that. The second point I want to make is that, unfortunately, one of the bad effects of the presidential system is that it concentrates power in the hands of a few people. You see, in the parliamentary system, the governor of a region chose his ministers from the House. They were his colleagues in the legislature. People who had won election in their own constituencies. So the prime minister or premier was primus inter pares, first among equals. But in the presidential system, the governor is the sole dictator. He handpicks his commissioners, can fire them anytime he likes. So part of the autocracy which Ambassador Yakwande and Alhaji Tanko Yakasai mentioned derives directly from the abuse of the presidential system, plus the monetization of politics is what has brought us to where we are. So if you want to sanitize the position, one, let us amend the Constitution and make membership for all legislators part-time. And two, let us consider returning to the parliamentary system. When the National Conference in 2014, this was debated for a very long time, there was national consensus, but that's in private consultations. But in the open conference, some of our friends from certain parts of the country said, yes, parliamentary system was better, but they wanted to use the powers of the presidency first before returning to parliamentary form of government. So let us agree that the present situation is too bad. We want to sanitize the system. Membership of the houses should become part-time, and let us consider returning to the parliamentary system. If you do two of those things, I'm sure there will be a considerable. Of course, the present players will oppose very vehemently what I'm suggesting. Those who are making 20 million a month as a senator, and are now will be a part-time member of the Senate, are going to fight that. So these are not popular proposals, but these are proposals that will have effect if you have the political courage and patriotism to consider, negotiate, and adopt them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oba. Well, let's back here in the studio, Senator Itainang. Well, you've been on both sides. You've been in the legislature, and you've also served in the executive arm of government. And a lot of Nigerians have spoken out that the basis, the beginning of the troubles we find the system has to do with the rewards, or if you don't mind, what they call the spoils of office. When people look at those, and then they're willing to do anything to get there. Perhaps if the reward for being in political office was not as lucrative as it seems, then the fight to be there would not be as fierce.
I agree, but it depends on the person.
Right.
It is, what is the main purpose of your being in seeking public office? Is it to go and serve the public? Is it to go and make things better? Or is it to go and like what Bola Ige of blessed memory would say, come chop. You know, I believe that the primary essence of going into office, into government, is to add value to the lives of people. Is that you have what your political party has promised the people. Is that there is a manifesto of what you will want to do. Like, my area doesn't have water. My area doesn't have light. There is the need for roads. There is need for a university in my place. There is need for a college of education. There is need for power project, you know, to make up the area, you know. If that is your purpose, then you will find fulfillment when you go there and struggle for those things. In the course of it, you will earn what you are legitimately paid. I agree that it is the allure of office, what people feel they will earn in office, that makes them that makes them seek office. And of course, at the state level and at most levels, people don't support you to go into a political office because of what they expect you'll do for the community. They support you to go because of what they think you will be able to do for them as individuals, you know. I had a bitter experience sometimes in 2003 when I wanted to go for a second term in the House of Representatives. A person that was in the House of Assembly in Cross River State, in the former Cross River State, who was now a senior person in my constituency, he even had a big position in the Assembly, said, look, he's not going to support me because what have I done for him? And I now told him, sir, you were so thing in so place where I now sit, but I have brought light to your village. I have done the road that leads to your village, crossing to many areas. He told me that you did that for everybody. I'm talking of what you are doing for me. I was a lot embarrassed. So, yeah, there is that allure of office, and it is to give people orientation. Now, of course, again, in 1999, when he got into the House of Representatives, it was young, fresh, vibrant persons who had ideas. But when we came in 2003, 2007, a lot of businessmen had heard falsely what legislators were earning. And then they sold their things and then decided to leave Alaba and all their places to come to the House of Representatives or Senate because of what they thought was earning. And when they came, they asked, when will that money come? And it didn't come. Yeah. So it is that. I want to support, but it's not going to be it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, that certain political offices should be made part-time to allow persons who have real interest, so that you don't go there for the purpose of what you are going to get or earn. And it is that desire to go and make quite some money and quite some earnings that leads to greater bitterness in politics. And when it leads to that bitterness, it leads to a situation where people could fight and even lead one ethnic group to fight against another group because it is our turn to go and chop.
All right. Okay, so we'll just quickly go back to our elder statesmen who joined us on this conversation and get their closing comments at this point. Let's start off with Oba Oluyemi Falai. As we have all
Nigeria.
spoken.
With Nigeria. If we can steal the money, we'll steal it. Make the constitution.
Our turn to go and chop.
And chop and chop.
Okay, let's get the closing comments now from Ambassador Yahaya Kwande, and after that we'll go to Oba Falai. Ambassador Yahaya Kwande, we'd just like to take your closing comments now on the way forward.
Closing comments. Closing comments now.
I am appealing to Nigerians that if we love our country as we do love it, then we have to change our manners. We have to change our attitudes towards government. I am really asking, I did mention in the earlier comment I made that you better make these offices unattractive in terms of material gain. Otherwise, a politician is a politician. We know them. If a politician is defeated, believe me, after that he goes back to his own people. But those who are taking it as if it is a money-making venture, on the day such persons are defeated, when they go back, you never will hear them again, because they are not actually politicians. We know politicians. And so therefore we are requesting the government, either the incoming one or the one that has got few weeks, to change the attitude. Please, when you hear members of our assembly debating, you will know they are doing it for themselves. Otherwise, how on earth could you, when they are talking something that is right, and they want to change something that will help, you vote against it. You vote against it because you think it will affect you. We need politicians to come forward, and the only way to break what is happening in the Nigerian political space is the greediness, selfishness, and this question of tribal differences is never done. Sedona never bothered whether Yahya Kwande was on. And another thing before I close, actually, when you are talking about, you are always hearing Hausa Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo. Are you sure in the Igbo land only Igbo is existing? Are you sure in the whole of Hausa land only Hausa Fulani exists? And when you are rotating something, I think time has come that we should examine this question of rotation. We should examine ourselves so that things will be free for the ordinary citizen of Nigeria, whether he is Hausa Fulani, Igbo. They are not different citizens of Nigeria. They are just Nigerian citizens as we are. We that are not Hausa Fulani. And so they have.
All right, thank you very much, Ambassador Yahya Kwande. We thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us and giving us the benefit of a wealth of experience in these matters. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, sir. Again, let's quickly go over to Alhaji Tanko Yakase and also ask for his closing comments. Okay, we can get to him immediately. So, okay, all right. So. Back here in the studio, Mr. Osita Okechukwu, it's been said that today's politicians would need to set aside all those sentiments and really address the needs of the people. But on the other side, some say, well, the people get the kind of political office holders they deserve, because even when someone decides to be upright, the pressure on him can make him change his mind. When people come with you with all their personal problems, believing that you were put into office to solve those personal problems and not the society in general.
In as much as I agree with our elder statesmen, which I have great respect for them, and Obafalaye, for instance, was part of the making of the amendments of the Electoral Act where we are today. He worked round the clock, both for the merger, though he was not there to the conclusion of the APC merger, but he was one of those brain behind the fact that we should formulate where we are. The truth of the matter is that democracy, one, is not a revolution. For us to see in an election where the governors agree with them emperors who had taken it for granted that they are going to the Senate as their retirement monastery were defeated in all the geopolitical zones. One governor or the other lost. Where a speaker over the years in Yobe State was defeated by a young person. If we keep on perfecting the 2002 Electoral Act, we'll get to where we're going. I do not think, for instance, that the President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not, as a veteran, will take into account that those who voted for him are waiting at the corner for good governance. And those who did not vote for him also waiting for him, that he needs to be more broad-minded, public-spirited, and manage better those he's going to appoint as ministers, because the rigging is no more the way it used to be. The 2022 Electoral Act and the beavers have become a vote rigging vaccine.
Okay.
So nobody can joke with it anymore. All we need is to perfect it.
Okay.
If we perfect it, those who are in the Senate, those who are in the presidency, those who are the ministers, those who are governors, will be reticent in looting of public funds. So otherwise, they know they will lose the next election.
All right, so we're back now. I think we have Adaji Tankuyaka back on, and so we'll just go quickly to him next couple of minutes to take his closing comments. Thank you so much for staying with us this far. Let's just hear you round off at this point. Closing comments. Thank you so much for staying with us this far. Let's just hear you.
Thank you very much. I will quickly make 2 points so that you don't have time. Number one is that we should concentrate on how to reduce monetization in politics. You cannot be a councillor unless you have money. If you go and see how they conducted primary to elect or select a councillor as a candidate, you see a lot of money is spent. Let us see what are we going to do to demonetize politics in Nigeria. The second point is that let us force the politicians to make programs, not to go on platform and shout. Let them have a meeting with the electorate or somewhere, present their program. What are they going to do for the people in their respective constituency? What is the president going to do for all Nigerians? He should be subjected to scrutiny for him to tell Nigerians what is he going to do for the country in the 4 years that's given to him. So that at the end of that period, we'll meet him again and let him show out of the programs that he pronounced before getting elected, how much of them did he implement? How much of them that he did not implement and why? This will make them accountable. They know that at the end of the day, that they will be subjected to this examination, this scrutiny, that whether they perform or they didn't perform. But now it's not like that. Everybody can promise without anything concrete, and at the end of the tenure, he will go away. Nobody will bother about him whether he has performed or he has not performed. We must subject the people elected to accountability, to tell the people what they are going to do for them, and at the end of their tenure, to tell people how much of the promise they made were fulfilled and how much were not fulfilled and why. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you very much, Alhaji Tanko Yakase. We appreciate your joining us on this discussion. We thank you once again. Thank you. Well, Senator Etainang, just as we prepare to wind down, quickly, the way forward, we have suggested that certain offices should be made less attractive, but you raised an important point that it's the individual. And so, again, people would ask, what's the recruitment process? Who are those we put up for elective positions, or who are those who offer themselves for elective positions, and what should be the scrutiny before they're allowed to scale through, and not just because they can fulfill the conditions of buying a form and filling it.
Well, I think our political parties are yet to perform properly as political parties, because the political parties are like limited liability companies for some stakeholders, and stakeholders have become like shareholders and sole administrators. If you go like in a state, for instance, you want to talk of who goes to the National Assembly, who goes to the House of Assembly, you must have, in my place they say, a table here, that is what does the governor say, you know, and you must be a good boy to the governor before he can allow you go to the Senate, before you can go to the House of Representatives, before you can go to the State House of Assembly, which is their.
So all these have nothing to do with your abilities.
It doesn't have to do with it. In fact, the biggest offense in seeking a public office is knowing what to do, because part of what they will say, that man is too independent-minded, he's too straight, he will not play ball. That is an offense. So I think the way, unless we return to the kind of situation where we allow the parties the political parties to be owned by the party, you know, like we have political parties where in the course of the last nomination, they said this state is given to this man. He is the champion, you know. So the man chooses who becomes the governorship candidate of that party, 3 senators, 3 members of the House of 3 senators, all the members of the House of Representatives, whether he is a governor or not, if there is no governor in that state.
That's why some of those people lost.
Yes, you know. So it becomes a big issue. So I can't say on public television that I don't know what to do, but it is that the system will mature and is gradually coming to some fruition. Okay. And sometimes, and often always, they forget that they are going into an election. They just take the process of choosing candidates. They say, Nami Chuzam is my person. That they forget that there will be election. Okay. And that in the course of election, the people will know where the zoning will be. The people will know the quality of the candidate that should go to the House of Reps or Senate. And in the course of it, they will vote for it. And I hope we learned the election we will learn our lessons in the last elections, because after choosing your candidate, the people will now have to choose whom they want to be the persons who win that office. So when you are thinking of choosing candidates, think that there will be election, and the real people, the electorate, will still have to vote.
And they'll be vast.
Okay. So let's go back to Abafalai quickly to get his closing comments. As Abafalai, from your view, as we close in just a couple of minutes, the parties, the individuals who put themselves up for elective position, what should be the best way to select them? To get his closing comments, as
Thank you very much.
The parties, the individuals who put themselves up for elected position.
Thank you, Cyril. You know, I want to remind ourselves that before independence, members of the legislatures in Nigeria were paid sitting allowances, not salaries. That's a fact. There is consensus tonight that we need to find a way to take money out of politics as much as possible. The only pragmatic way that has been tested before is, as I said before, to make membership of the legislature part-time. Pay legislatures only sitting allowed. Try that strong medicine. It will work. It will be opposed, but to all the other homilies and appeals will not work. A man who spent $5 billion to become a senator, he won't listen to any appeal. He's going to recoup his money plus a profit. But if you say from tomorrow, membership of the House of Reps or House of Assembly is part-time, if you go there, you get a sitting allowance. As I said earlier, the business people who have taken over our legislatures will leave the place, and committed patriots will go in there. That is the only pragmatic, effective way of doing it. Any appeal will not work. So tonight we all agree we should demonetize politics, but the pragmatic way, effective way of doing it is my suggestion, that we consider returning to what we used to do before, which is to make membership part-time. If we do that, there'll be a fantastic effect. But it requires courage, because those who will lose out are going to fight the rest of us. So my closing remark is that, yes, Nigeria can change, things can improve, but take money out of politics as much as possible by making membership of both state and federal legislatures part-time. I thank you.
Samuel Oluyemi Falaye, the Oluwabo of Iluabo, we thank you, appreciate you for joining our conversation tonight, and we look forward to speaking with you again in the near future. Thank you so very much. All right. Well, back here, and we are, well, yes, we still have some time.
Very exciting listening to the elder statesmen and their opinion, and how they managed it and got the country to this stage. So we commend them.
Right. A lot of young people are seeking to come into leadership positions, and one thing many would talk about is, what are the examples that they look? What are they looking at? Who are their heroes? Who are those they're looking up to shape them? Yeah. Because we keep saying the greater tomorrow, the leaders. What are they coming into? Who are they looking at?
Yeah, that's what I said. That democracy is not a revolution. All the gains made in liberal democracy throughout history have been incremental. At each phase of any election, out of the 36 governors, there are some that have done so well that they became models in their states. There are local government chairmen that have done so well in the midst of the rot. There are some councillors who are distinguishing themselves. There are some state legislatures at the state assembly who became heroes of those young men. And we're going to be seeing that as we graduate. For some who have benefited from President Muhammadu Buhari's Uncle Bora's program and become enriched, he is their hero. Forget about insecurity. President Muhammadu Buhari, post 1970, had invested more than any other regime in agriculture. And a lot of people benefited. Some of them have gone private with it and doing so well with what have been invested by modern seedlings, assistance in mechanization, and what is called the off-takers under the Ankobras. And don't forget, in a few months' time, some of the equipment, various multi-agricultural implements, both ranches will soon be in the country. Don't forget what is called the Green Imperative Program, where with the Brazilian government and other state international friends of the country, 995 million euro have been invested. It took time to manufacture those equipments that is suitable to all the geopolitical zones in the country. Because in every geopolitical zone in the country, there's one crop or the other that are more fertile than in another zone. All these were targeted. And they are going to also have processing plants. That is to say, you do not allow the tomato or the fruits to rot away because it has a processing plant. It's going to come to fruition. So models are being created by the day. There are those for instance, who are seeing for the first time standard gauge rail line. I have a friend who lives in Ibadan and commutes on daily basis to Lagos for work. For him, it's impressive of what has been done. There are those who didn't see another bridge in the River Niger. Today, they are passing through alternate bridge. For them, that's modeling. So we cannot throw the baby away with the bathwater.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, at this point in time, let's return to our report, one of the reports we have here. This one from Lagos.
For conflicts, violence, deception, criticism, hatred, nepotism, tribalism, segregation, discrimination, and bigotry, among others. This is because of differences that characterize people as individuals. As a result, the world is being perceived from diverse points of view, giving birth to the inability to embrace altruism. This attitude, respondents maintained, it is what some politicians are portraying today. Cases of political thuggery, electoral violence, tension, bitterness, among others. On the other hand, out of ignorance, people were divided along ethnic and religious lines and moved to consider politicians based on their ethnicity rather than their track records and capacity to deliver good governance.
Either you win, I win. And when you win, you have to join that thing you see you want to do. You have to bring it to the top.
In Southeast, for instance, even before the 2023 general elections, there were intra-party tussle, which was more deadlier than inter-party disagreement. But the seed of discord was said to be either internal or external in quest for power.
People must be aggrieved, but they cannot, just wave them by the side.
Individuals who lost in the course of the elections. If you bring these individuals, it will help to us to have a healthy nation, a progressive nation, and a nation built on unity.
Politics is generally believed to be all about a contest of ideas and programs. When people contest for a position, it is not possible for all to win one seat. A victor must emerge. It is therefore the character of human being to swallow the pill of defeat and should not take the loss to the extreme. Traditional rulers who made the observation are calling for localizing approaches in driving issues that would bring good democratic culture, sportsmanship, to avoid unnecessary reactions that might result to violence and other undemocratic measures after electioneering period.
The government doesn't use traditional rulers as they are supposed to be used. Like we have customary court today. These are the work of the traditional ruler.
It's very, very difficult to operate where you don't have powers, constitutional powers. When you have a constitutional power to do certain things, you do them without fear or favor. You do what the law says, irrespective of the person.
In Enugu, Comfort, I am NTA News.
All right, that report was actually from Enugu. Let's get to see this other one from Kaduna.
Unhealthy comments among politicians and their supporters is common in the country, which sometimes resulted in violent clashes between adherents of different political parties. This is why a security expert and a public affairs analyst Dr. Awal Abdullah Aliu and others say a no victor, no vanquished kind of politics should be sustained amongst politicians before, during, and after elections for the sake of peace and progress of the country.
Most of those that get themselves in politics are just got there through privileges, hanging on the neck of a particular politician A or politician B or Godfather A or Godfather B to get to their position. They are not really from the grassroots. They are not really connected to the people. They are not really interested in the people. The interest of the people is not what matters to them. The interest of their locality or the state or national interest is not of paramount importance to them. What matters to them is they themselves and their family. By so doing, you find inflammatory statement, you find castigation, you find downgrading each other.
So we should be politicians with the concept of going into politics either to win, and if we are winning, we should win convincingly. If we are losing, we should lose with dignity. But there is no cause for us to encourage people to engage in violence, looting, or arson.
Without peace, there cannot be development at all. Nothing can be achieved. It's not possible for you to have good economic progress without social, economic, and even political, to a larger extent, progress, without peace.
They say politicians should imbibe the politics without bitterness style of the Second Republic leader and presidential candidate of the defunct Great Nigerian People's Party, the late Waziri Ibrahim, in spite of differences in tribe, beliefs, and party affiliation.
Nationalism and patriotism should come first in anything, most especially in political arrangement. And even the politicians themselves, they should understand that, yes, at the end of the day, after fighting, after bashing, after downgrading each other, they come back to embrace, shake and embrace in other. But then the dent is always there.
Government should be ready and willing to prosecute anybody that either encourages political thuggery or even go extra mile to get people killed. Such people should be put at the dock and let the law take its course.
There is no point going into political contests with the mentality of winning at all costs. As much as winning is good and desired by all contestants, we must also create a little space for losing. This way, violence and needless tensions will give way for a better Kaduna State and Nigeria at large. Adamu Sunday.
All right, that report from Kaduna. Well, we've seen, we've talked about what the political class have to offer and the politicians themselves. What are the responsibilities of the people, the electors, those who are out there who may not be party people, but who are also deeply involved in the process?
Well, what they have to do is putting us, the politicians, on our toes, because we politicians, or the politicians, sometimes go to the extreme. And when they go to the extreme, it is the ordinary voter, whether you belong to a political party or not, it is them that will eventually be the victim. If you play politics with bitterness, that at the end of election, you must cause a fight. Please go back to history and see the countries in Africa and other countries which have been destroyed, that it has been destroyed by the greed of politicians who simply play politics of bitterness, who want to win at all cost, who want the society destroyed, or generating a fight, an ethnic conflict between one ethnic group and another. So the duty of the ordinary voter, of the citizens, is to work and make sure that he orients the citizens to agree to accept that whenever the result of election has been announced, we have to respect the result, accept the winner, comfort the loser, and make sure even the winner has to also make sure that he brings in on board even those who may have lost one way or the other. Otherwise, when you consider what happened in Sierra Leone, what happened in other countries in West Africa, which has been destroyed, what happens in Libya, in Niger, what has happened in Chad, what is happening in Sudan, and so on. It is not a conflict that is caused by the ordinary citizen. It is a conflict that is caused by leaders disagreeing among themselves, leaders disagreeing out of result of election, and then they now mobilize, and the citizens and the ordinary voters become the victim. So we want to say that, please, ordinary citizens, encourage the kind of peace that we're having. Encourage the incoming government by your action and conduct. Encourage the incoming government to take up governance as a big as a big project, because the country now sits on a kind of fragile situation. That is why you saw, and I appreciate, Mr. President, that issues and actions, rights, no matter how right, which are capable of causing questions to be asked, which are capable of causing tension, were all shelved so that it will not create a kind of things that will spiral into either the next administration or give the next administration a hard start. We should encourage the next administration, put all our hands on deck to be an all-embracing government. We urge the incoming administration, His Excellency President-elect Ahmed Tinubu and his vice, Senator Shetima. They've gathered a lot of experience as governors, a lot of experience as senators, a lot of experience as businessmen. Let them come in and form government of Nigeria for Nigerians, in favor of Nigerians. Doesn't matter, yet it will matter the political parties. But wherever you see a potential, please use. Incoming President Tinubu is already used to doing that in Lagos. Let him use all the potentials. Already, President Buhari has laid a very solid foundation to make sure that they are not they are not going to inherit, they are not having so much problem to start with. Okay. But they are going to have problem of the economy, they have the problem of security, they have to ensure that they silence the guns in Benue and in the bushes so that we can return to farming. I wish them well.
All right. The last word in a couple of minutes. Round up.
I join him in calling for all of us to cooperate with the incoming government, because at the end of the day, if there is no Nigeria, there won't be a president. So we have to have a country before we govern. And as I said, there are some developmental projects that they should hook up to. They should continue the infrastructural development. They should continue the agricultural program. One of the recent is the one floated by the Federal Ministry of Finance, called the bioeconomy, with emphasis on cassava derivatives, which is planted all over the country. They should fund such in relation with the friends of Nigeria. Thank you.
It is on that note we conclude this discussion. We have to leave it here and thank our guests for being part of this conversation, and thanks to Senator Itayenang and Mr. Osita Okechukwu. Thank you very much for coming.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And that's our program today. Thank you for watching. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.